Hi, my name is Trevor Kemp, and I'll be presenting on the Punishing Choices case study um, for our Module 2 on ALTC 803 for our Foundations of Education class. When looking at our case study, just kind of an scheme or overview of the whole case, it was looking at a potential child abuse case. So it started out as a third grade teacher, had noticed some kind of signs of abuse on one of her students, and kind of a change of behavior. They used to be outgoing and kind of changed to reserved behavior. And so the teacher talked and set up a meeting with the parent and kind of talked over the concerns they had, especially because when the teacher asked the student about some bruise that he got, the student talked about he got the bruise from the mom's boyfriend. So that really raised red flags where the teacher wanted to approach the mom and talk about the situation. When approached, the mom gets really defensive in the situation, starts threatening to transfer him schools because they don't like being accused of anything like that. And they said they enjoy this school, but accusations of that type will cause them to rethink where they get their child's education. And that just led into where the teacher kind of brought in the case study that she doesn't feel that she fits in with her background. She had an Italian American descent, and had moved to more of an inner city school for part of her job, and she just wasn't quite in the same ethnicity. She didn't have the same background growing up. It was a really popular in that area to have corporal punishment, which when she had read in her psychology class in college, that corporal punishment can cause a lot of problems and that it really shouldn't be done. So it just made her kind of uncomfortable at the school on stuff like that, and just wasn't really her belonging. But the fact of she knew that corporal punishment was common and that this mom had used corporal punishment, but she talked through that it wasn't the fact when the mom used it, she thought the mom was okay. It was the fact that these new changes where the kid became more reserved happened more when the boyfriend arrived in the house. That's when the mom explained that the boyfriend came in and the changes started to happen. Then it went on to talk about kind of how she researched on child abuse and how to report it, signs of child abuse. And she looked into a legislator over in Tennessee where she was. And she said it's kind of ambiguous. It's kind of hard to tell the difference in the laws when they talked about distinguishing between corporal punishment and then child abuse. So that made her kind of uneasy about trying to go with the whole situation too. And then she also has heard things about DCS, where kids don't get placed correctly. They aren't kept up to date. It separates families. And when she got comfort from a colleague after the meeting, kind of discussing everything, the colleague had a similar situation where they told DCS, and it ended up causing more problems than keeping the kid in the home. So that kind of brought in a little bit other tail into the case study that made it even tougher for her to decide what to do. So going back on kind of the child abuse, at this looking over in the ethics, so on this case specifically, it stated in there that Tennessee is a mandatory reporting state for teachers and all citizens, actually. So that leads that if she did believe that it was a child abuse situation, that she needed to report the matter because it was her civic duty. But on the law, and then she talked about how it's tough to decipher the law and the difference in corporal punishment and child abuse. She had trouble telling could be kind of thrown out just because how gray the difference is between the two. There wasn't anything that specifically kind of stated this is corporal punishment, this is child abuse, which makes it really tough to decide from the two, especially if you're not in the home seeing what's happening. Then you have to look in the ethics portion of just saying, is it worth the separation of family? Is it that bad? And then how certain are you that there is child abuse? How do you know Jamal is not just kind of klutzy at home running into it? A big indicator is the boy saying that he got hit by the boyfriend, but you have to be certain. And then who is the child abused by? So is that something they could look into and say, well, the mom is okay, you stay with the mom, but we have problems with the boyfriend. If there hadn't been a problem before, and say, hey, can we work out something different? Is your child more important, or is your boyfriend more important? What is your safety protocol? What do you look at? So that's kind of the ethics portion of it. So when I break down the case, speaking and reading through on what to do from kind of the case, different things said in it, in the articles that were in class, and just what we've got in different in-service days. So analysis, make reports of the abuse seen on the student. You see a bruise on the arm, mark it down. Start keeping a journal on that kid. Mark the date, mark where the bruise is, everything like that. Make comfortable conversation to the student, just asking where the marking's from. Just say, hey, you roughhousing with your siblings, you play some football over the weekend with your friends, or you don't have to ask, hey, are you getting abused? You can kind of give more open questions and let the child kind of speak their mind instead of trying to force them to say something. If they hear you say my child abuse, something like that, they may shy away from one, or they may just go along with it because an adult is talking about the situation and they feel kind of pressured into it. Then I'd move on to, after that, is contacting the parent again and kind of bringing this case log. Maybe the mom knows there's something happening, but because she's there, she doesn't see how frequent it is or how severe it is. And just having that case study, or that whole report there, that you've jotted down the days, everything that the child says, might give you more of a grounds to talk to the parent, get her to listen a little bit more. And then ultimately, talking to the parent after that, make a decision on whether you fully believe it's child abuse or if you think it's corporal punishment. If it's decided to be corporal punishment, if that's what you decide, if you think it's getting a little too rough, not to child abuse, maybe refer to a school counselor to look at it, and then they can discuss different options for what to do with the student. How can we can discipline or keep the child in line without crossing the line. And then if it's decided to be child abuse, then you need to contact DCS. That's your mandatory reporter. I'd have to. And when I read through the Kansas statute on it, make sure when you contact it, you have kind of your ducks in a row. Have your identifying information on the kid and his siblings and parents and whoever else in the household. Have their address if they can check it out. And then the type of abuse. Is it hitting? Is it kicking? Is it slicing with something? Just all of the information on the whole case. And then let them take it from there, or let the counselor take it there. And then always just don't ever push away your child through these situations either way. If they're reserved, always be open to them and keep talking with your student through the whole situation. So my references, the top one there is for the statute that I found, kind of the information of what it says you should state to DCS. The bottom one is the case study, and the case study covers all of the other material in this presentation. Thank you.